Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Saturday, November 30, 2024, a little after 3:15 p.m. Eastern. A lot of us, we talk about letting go, letting go of things, surrendering things, and it's not as easy or smooth as you kind of view it from the outside perspective and say, well, that shouldn't be too hard. And so when we go through conscious aging has to do with letting go, which allows us to come into the present moment, into spirit. Hold on tightly, let go lightly. Making believe you are done with something, and I don't think any of us are exempt from this. It's done with something you are not truly finished with. And this slows us down on our journey to God. Equally, trying to hold on to something you are done with will also slow your journey. How do we get on with it? We give up the things that don't get us to God. So what is it that we give up? It's not just material stuff. It's also the ways we identify ourselves, how we feel about ourselves. For instance, give up your unworthiness. Don't analyze it. Just give it up. Keep giving up your guilt, your anger, and your preoccupation with your own melodrama. It's just a melodrama. It's just a soap opera. Don't you already know how it comes out? You took this birth because you have work to do that involves suffering and the kinds of situations you find yourself in. This is your curriculum for this birth. Where you are now, with all your neurosis and problems, is just the right place. This is it. And it is perfect. Live life fully and richly as a partner with God and accept what comes with openness and love. Expand your perception of this world to include the horrible beauty of decay. You look at decay and see how beautiful it is in its own way. Now, I had a friend, and she had a collection of beautiful pharmaceutical jars in her kitchen over the sink. She'd take old beer or beet greens and orange peels and things and put them in water in the jars and let them slowly mold and decay into beautiful formations catching light. It was decay as art. There's true beauty in that. There's horror and beauty in everything. You can look at your hand and it's decaying. It's beautiful and horrible at the same time, same moment. And you live with it. You see the beauty and perfection of decay in the world around you and in yourself, and just allow it to be. Now, there are some unappreciated advantages to aging. The very frailty of age guards its secrets. The many people you become to many, you become irrelevant, which gives you more time to do inner work. Francis, a resident in a nursing home, spoke about lack of physical strength keeps me inactive and often silent. They call me senile. Senility is a convenient peg on which to hang nonconformity. A new set of faculties seems to be coming into operation. I seem to be waking to a larger world of wonderment, to catch little glimpses of the immensity and diversity of creation. More than at any other time of my life, I seem to be aware of the beauties of our spinning planet and the sky above. Old age is sharpening my awareness. It is interesting to see how aging can work to one's advantage spiritually. I used to go to Burma and sit in meditation. I'd go into a cell. I'd sit down. No books, no television, no computers, no one to talk to. I'd just sit and go inward. I'd go into as quiet a place as I could find. And just look at what happens when you get old. You lose your hearing, you lose your sight, you can't move around so well, you slow down. What an ideal time to meditate. If any message is clear, that's it. Yet we treat aging as an error or a failing. That distortion comes from defining ourselves in terms of doing instead of being. But behind all the doing, all the roles, you just are. Pure awareness, pure consciousness, pure energy. When you reside fully in the present moment, you are outside of time and space. Trungpa Rinpoche notes, our lives awaken through ordinary magic. It's in everyday things that the miraculous happens. If we practice being here now, we develop the sensitivity to perceive and appreciate the daily miracles of our lives. For a while, I lived in an old school bus. Spent a lot of time in campgrounds with elderly neighbors. Earlier in their lives, these people had focused on planning for the future. Now that the future was here, their consciousness was occupied with the past. I heard heavy doses of sentimental reverie. As I was thinking about this, I wondered, whatever happened to the present moment? What happened to just making tea? What happened to this consciousness of just being together in this beautiful place under the stars? Their minds were holding on to an identity that they were constantly reinforcing by reliving the past. Any memory of a high moment you've held on to keeps you from this present moment. And right here is the living spirit. If not here, then nowhere. Now, isn't preparation for later? Here and now is it. There is a spaciousness and acceptance of what is in the moment that says, yes, so everything, whether it's ugly, beautiful, boring, confused, dead, angry, the dark night of the soul, or the brilliant light of the spirit, this is just the way it is. and in just the way it is the spirit. This moment is just enough. To come more and more fully into the moment is to fully appreciate the infusion of the spirit. Once you've tasted what it's like to be in the spirit, to be with the beloved, you can't stand to be away. Coming fully into the moment is like coming through a doorway to another dimension of consciousness and to being here now. In Walden, Henry David Thoreau wrote, "Sometimes I sat in my sunny doorway from sunrise till noon, wrapped in a reverie amidst the pines and hickories and sumacs and the undisturbed solitude and stillness, while the birds sing around or flitted noiseless through the house, until by the sun falling in at my west window, or the noise of some traveler's wagon on the distant highway, I was reminded of the lapse of time. I grew in those seasons like corn in the night, and they were far better than any work of the hands would have been. They were not time subtracted from my life, but so much over and above my usual allowance. I realized what the Orientals mean by contemplation and the forsaking of works." In a letter, he also wrote, "To some extent, and at rare intervals, even I am a yogi." We're talking about this, which isn't visited hardly at all on this planet. It is ignored. We spend the majority of our time in running away from it rather than embracing it. All of us, in this very moment, it doesn't matter if you're 10 or 100, our bodies are aging. Now, you don't know it, like, let's say, when you're in your 20s and 30s, really. And then as you move forward, some of us don't look at it that way. We look at it as it's not age at all. It's existence. But see, here on this planet, it's kind of like doom and gloomy, right? We stay away from it. But it gives us a chance to learn to use the shadows in our life as vehicles for our awakening. And the longest shadow of all is what? On this planet, they call it death. How you relate to death is the key spiritual work of aging. And how you see death is a function of how much you identify with that which dies. Egos die. Souls don't die. Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "But this, that one can contain death, the whole of death, even before life has begun, can hold it to one's heart gently, and not refuse to go on living, is inexpressible." I encourage you to make peace with death, to see it as the culminating event of this adventure called life. Death is not an error. It is not a failure. Emmanuel says it's like taking off a tight shoe. Confucius says, "Those that find the way in the morning can gladly die in the evening." For some of us, the subject of death is easy to talk about, and for some of us, it's a little threatening and frightening. And I recognize all that. But part of the essential spiritual work for us at any age is to find a way to be with death. An old tombstone inscription reads, "Dear friend, please know as you pass by, as you are now, to once was I. As I am now, so you will be. Prepare yourself to follow me." Take that epitaph as a deep, eternal loving from beyond. And let us prepare ourselves to realize it's presumptuous of me to talk about death as if I know about it. But some of us have chutzpah, which is Sanskrit for a lot of nerve. And some of us in our meanderings through realms of consciousness over the past so many years, something happens to us that changes our attitude towards death. A lot of the fear that surrounds death has left, will leave you. Now, not everyone is ready to talk with you about dying, okay? We choose to honor all of our individual differences. You may have come across a situation where a loved one is about to have minor surgery. And the night before, you visit them in the hospital. No operation is minor when you were, let's say, 80 years old. You may have had a nice visit, and you had your, let's say, you had your jacket on. You were halfway out the door when, let's say, your dad called you back. Just in case things go wrong, is there anything I should know? So you go back to his bedside, say, all I can tell you is, as good as this is, Dad is going to be better. And wherever you go, I'll be there. So whoever the loved one is, could be your dad, your mom, or anybody, the response is great. That's all I wanted to know. See you later. For many of us, the thought of death, thinking of when we are or someone we love is going to die, keeps us from being here now. When will we die? How will we die? What will happen after we die? What will happen to our loved ones? What about all the things we hope to accomplish? These deep fears and anxieties about our survival keep us from living fully in the present moment. Most of us are convinced that we are our egos. That's so true, too. Most of us on this planet are convinced that we are egos, which is who we think we are. The ego is part of our incarnation. It dies with the body, which is why we are so afraid of death. Death scares the hell out of who you think you are, especially if you think you are this body. Being around death forces you to open to a deeper part of yourself. The shadow, especially the shadow of death, is the greatest teacher for how to come to the light. That fear of death is an anticipatory fear. The only real preparation for death is the moment-to-moment process of life. And when you live in the present moment, you are not living in the future or in the past. Don't prolong the past. Do not invite the future. Do not alter your innate wakefulness. Do not fear appearances. There's nothing more than that. Patrul Rinpoche. When you're fully present in the moment, there is no anticipatory fear, no anxiety, because you are just here now, not in the future. And when we are resting in our souls, death is just closing a chapter in a book. Now, a lot of us on this planet, and I talk with people all the time that are dealing with pain. Pain, or the fear of pain, is one of the major traps for our ego in the process of dying. Although spiritual practices are a great help, pain is a worthy adversary. Now, what helps many the most is identifying with the soul level of consciousness and staying centered in mantra. We are not our bodies. But when our bodies experience pain, that is often difficult to remember. That's one reason it's important to do spiritual practice when we are healthy, so that we remain centered in the spirit when we are not. Physical pain or emotional pain is a thought as well as a sensation. And working with pain, you witness these thoughts and feelings. You don't identify with them. You are not your pain. Pain is in your body and your mind. Be present in your soul. Now, I'm not saying that that is easy, right? Wavy gravy sums it up well. Pain sucks. Truly relieving the mental and emotional side of pain, your own or anyone else's, depends on maintaining your spiritual center. Witnessing from your spiritual heart and not identifying with the painful sensations, thoughts, and emotions. Pain is a fierce motivator. From the spiritual standpoint, it's one of those places where the rubber meets the road. In conventional Western medicine, people can now decide for themselves, in collaboration with their doctor, how much pain medication they need. Turns out that when people know that they have control over their pain, they need a lot less medication, because often pain is actually made worse by the actual fear of the pain. When working with pain, give it space, allow it to be, and know that your awareness of the pain is separate from the pain itself. Opening to the pain allows it to be part of the reality you are witnessing and decreases the resistance to it, allowing you to relax around it. Open to what it is. Acknowledge it. Give it space. Bring your awareness to it as another sensation. Pain is, and you are. Poet and teacher Stephen Levine, in his book Guided Meditations, Explorations and Healings, includes a meditation for letting go of pain. And he says, consider the possibility that the resistance to the pain and the fear pain may evoke may be more painful than the pain itself. Notice how the resistance closes your heart and fills your body and mind with tension and dis-ease. Keep relaxing the resistance the tightness that has accumulated around the pain. Soften around the pain. Jenny was a patient at the hospice where I was serving in California. First time I visited her, she was skeptical and asked what I had to teach her. She was dying of cancer of the nervous system, and she was in extreme pain. She said she was bored with dying. I invited her to try being here now, and we did a little practice to bring her into the moment. Outside her open window, we could hear children playing. I suggested that she bring that sound of the children inside of her. After a while, I suggested she incorporate the ticking sound of the clock in the room inside of her. She became very present, coming fully into the moment, and into her soul, took her out of time and space. This is important in life, and even more so when someone is dying. The soul is independent of time and space. Jenny and I became dear friends. There came a time when she was so weak that all I could do was sit by her bedside. She was literally writhing in pain, twisting her head, rubbing her hands over her body. Her expression was one of very intense pain. I sat next to her doing the Buddhist meditation on the decaying body. This is a formal meditation on the stages of decay of the human body. I sat there wide open, not closing my eyes or going off to some other place, just staying with her, noticing the pain, noticing the whole thing. I was letting my emotions flow, but not holding on or clinging to them or getting into judgment. I was just watching the laws of the universe unfold, which is not easy to do around death, especially with someone we love, because of our emotional attachment. As I sat there watching the pain and the suffering, I started to experience a great deep calm. The room became luminous. At that moment, though her body was writhing with pain, Jenny turned to me and whispered, "I feel so peaceful." In this meditative environment, she had been able to move beyond the pain and experience deep peace. We had created a vibrational space that we could be in together. Neither she nor I wanted to be in any other place in this universe at that moment. A feeling of bliss permeated the room. All I had done really was not to be freaked out that she was dying or in pain. Many of us have had those situations. Each of us has our own work to do, our own unique karmic predicament. But what's most important is where you are doing it from. That is your point of view. Are you doing it from your ego, your role, your personality, or from a place in you that doesn't change? Your spiritual heart, your soul. A lot of us will do things on the surface or from the ego mind, believing that we're, in the heart mind. You ask yourself a question, are you stuck in time or not? Time is a river that flows from birth to death a lifetime, if you are in time, you will suffer and you will die. If you change your identification from that which dies to your soul, then you move into that realm of awareness that is beyond time, though it includes time. When you are a soul who is part of the One, and souls don't die. Rilke said, love and death are magnificent gifts, which many of us leave unopened. Making peace with your feelings about death is the prerequisite for living life joyfully here and now. Death does not have to be treated as an enemy for you to delight in this life. Keeping death present in your consciousness as one of the greatest mysteries, as the moment of incredible transformation, imbues this moment with added richness and energy. The minute the fear of death has been faced, the meaning of life changes. Otherwise, your fear distorts your perception all the time, and you panic when someone gets near death. That panic is because of your identification with those thoughts. The journey of consciousness is about arriving at a balance in this life where you are open to the mystery of it all. You cannot be open when you're loaded down with a lot of conceptual stuff. In your own consciousness, you may watch how long it takes when an expectation isn't filled or fulfilled. And before you come back again to being in the present moment, how long before you can let go of not getting what you wanted and just be with what is? Have you ever done that? You know? Have you ever said to yourself, and you want something, whatever it may be, and you get attached to it. You don't have it. Right? And you can't get it off. You can't get rid of it. It's just there. And it seems to grow and glue itself to you. And then, lo and behold, something occurs and you don't get it. Yet, it's still attached to you, and you it. And it takes a while for it to be alleviated. And as long as we identify with the part of us that dies, there is always fear of death, because it is the fear of cessation of existence. Now, there have been times, where some of us, we did things and experienced things. We're kind of experimental, right? You'd take certain things and then you would have, at times, at least to you, indefinable, profound experiences of pure consciousness beyond your body, knowing that this essence of your awareness is beyond death. And you may have heard of Aldous Huxley and the book, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Aldous Huxley gave it to Tim Leary. Lamas read aloud from this book to their fellow monks. When they are dying and in the days following death, the book is centuries old, yet described the same experiences I had with whatever substance, mushrooms, bringing me full circle to the universal nature of these experiences. These issues of death and pain and suffering bring us to the very limit of our mind's ability to deal with the mystery of life. Many people rely on religion to reassure them about death. But religious teachings are belief systems that are part of the mind structure. And fear is inherent and a belief system, because when you die, your mind dies, and your beliefs die with it. A belief won't keep you warm on a cold night. In our Western culture, although death has come out of the closet, it is still not openly experienced or discussed. In India, for instance, the differences in our outlook on death and theirs to be enormous. There, death is a familiar part of life. Allowing dying to be so intensely present enriches both the preciousness of each moment and our detachment from it. In India, it is not unusual to see a body being carried down the street on the way to the burning ghat to be cremated. The body leaves with the head facing back to its physical home, halfway to the burning ghat. The body is turned around so the head is facing the opposite direction toward the burning ghat, as to symbolize the transition to the spiritual home. The whole way, people in the procession are chanting Ram Nam, Sarya, Hai, Satya, which means Ram's, God's, name is truth. One day Maharaji was walking with a devotee many years when he suddenly looked up and said, Ma just died. She was an old woman and a great devotee. Since it lived in a distant city, it was obvious he had been her death. He'd seen her death on another plane. Then he laughed and laughed. His devotee was shocked and called Maharaji a butcher to laugh at the death of such a beautiful and pure woman. Maharaji turned and said, "What do you want me to do? Act like one of the puppets?" Maharaji often spoke about death to his devotees, and his perceptions had a major effect on many's attitude about dying. Some of the things he said were, the body passes away. Everything is impermanent except the love of God. And the body dies, but not the soul. He also said, this world is all attachment. Yet you get worried because you are attached. This world is all attachment. Yet you get worried because you're attached. Now, when the great South Indian saint, Ramana Maharishi, was dying of cancer, his doctors wanted to treat him, but he refused, saying, "This body is all used up." His devotees, who loved him dearly, cried, "Bhagawan," or Blessed One, "don't leave us, don't leave us." He replied, "Don't be silly. Where can I go?" The biblical idea of dying and the soul being born again into myth or wisdom or spirit is what our business with death is really about. As the Bhagavad Gita says, we're born into the world of nature, and second birth is into the world of spirit. And as we extricate ourselves from a rigid identification with body, personality, and mind, we begin to be spacious enough to allow death to be part of the process of life, rather than the end of existence. You may feel this very deeply. So if you believe there is continuity after death, I say that I don't believe it. It just is. So that offends scientific people to no end. But belief is something you hold with your intellect. And this goes way beyond your intellect. Bhagavad Gita also tells us, as the spirit of our mortal body wanders on in childhood and youth and old age, the spirit wanders on to a new body. Of this, the sage has no doubts. As Krishna says, because we all have been for all time, and we shall be for all time, we all forever and ever. These processes that we go through, like I have talked about, complete reversal of all this, but yet it is an inevitability, whether you live in the body 10,000 years or 300 years, 1,500, whatever, you will eventually determine and decide that it is time for you to leave. That life, as far as you're concerned, is complete. And the interesting thing is that what this gives us, it gives us a tremendous opportunity to shift all of the writings of all of these gurus, of Maharishi and all the rest of them, all the saints, all the wise ones, completely rewriting our direction with spirituality. And when you listen to what I share with you about death and how you embrace death and pain, which we all do, and we all have for many, many, many lifetimes. But the point of this meditation, this guidance, is to show everyone that when I talk about New Earth and a God-planet paradise, you will have the opportunity and the ability to exist in that body for 1,000+ years. You will learn directly about many things that you did not have time to do in 90 years or 100. Just imagine that. So in the quiet time of this meditation, as you are relaxed into your body, as still as a statue, focus on your breath rising and falling, on the true meaning of your existence in that body that you currently have. I'll join you in meditation. I'll return to close us out. Focus on your breath rising and falling. Relaxed into the body. As still as a statue. Forgive yourself. The mistakes you've made in the past are not blunders in the eyes of this universe. This universe sees you as divine, perfect, and holy. And anything you think is a mistake is simply the mind getting in the way of your sweet, loving heart. The mind is a master at judging you and not seeing your divinity clearly. So do not buy into its crazy stories, which will completely change next week. Remember, all of this part of the perfect plan for you to see, feel, and know the greatest truth. The perfect, beautiful soul of who is courageously unfolding every day and awakening to your highest expression and potentiality. We would never know perfection unless we glimpsed imperfection. It's time to forgive, for you did the best that you could with the resources you had at that time. Let go of all the heaviness you carry from your past. Yes. Forgive yourself today. Don't wait another day. Your life is worth it. You are divine, perfect, and holy. Take it in. You really are. And in the eyes of this universe, you're becoming more beautiful than ever. And when the heart remains open, the forgiveness naturally flows. Take this with you for the rest of the day, into the evening and night and the following morning. We'll return here Sunday. December 1, 2024. A little after 3:15 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call. Be gentle, kind, generous, and humble with yourself at all times. Be in the highest of the highest high, deepest of the deepest deepest, purest of the purest purest. Eternal gratitude at all times. No matter what's going on within you or outside of you. Open your heart and allow the magic to flow in.